Beyond the clouds, where the mountains touch the sky, lies a wilderness unlike any other.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're strapping in for a high-energy journey to decode our planet's most alien architecture. We are exploring a massive region where the rules of nature seem to have just been completely rewritten. We're talking about wild China, a place where survival requires extreme biological workarounds, where landscapes literally change colors overnight, and where water exerts a terrifying, violent force. If you love understanding how the natural world pushes boundaries to the absolute limit, well, you are definitely in the right place. Okay, let's dive right in. Think about this for a second. If Earth were an architectural blueprint, China would be the place where nature became its most unpredictable. This quote perfectly sets the stage for what we're looking at today. We aren't dealing with a standard, predictable ecosystem here. This massive, isolated region acts as nature's ultimate testing ground for the bizarre and the extreme. It's a place where both evolution and geology just throw the rulebook out the window. So here is our mental map for today's explainer. Number 1. An unpredictable natural blueprint. 2. Landscapes from another world. 3. Masters of extreme survival. 4. The violent forces of water. And 5. A living, shifting frontier.
Starting off with Section 1, an unpredictable natural blueprint, defining the extremes.
45,000. Just take a second to let that number sink in. That is the size, in square kilometers, of Ho-Gil. It's actually the third largest uninhabited landmass on Earth. Because of its freezing winds, extreme altitude, and totally unforgiving terrain, it rejects almost every single attempt at human settlement. It is completely locked in by the cold, gray Kunlun Mountains. Yet, despite being this freezing, brutal natural boundary, it's the critical homeland for massive herds of migrating Tibetan antelopes. So this is the stage we're setting today: vast, empty, and incredibly harsh. Moving right along to Section 2, landscapes from another world, nature's sci-fi scenery. Now, what's really wild is how these completely disparate regions deploy vivid colors. And they don't do it just to look pretty, they do it for survival. At Pingtan Island, billions of bioluminescent plankton turn the crashing waves neon blue. It looks like underwater fireworks, right? But it's actually a desperate defense mechanism to scare away predators. Meanwhile, the Panjin wetland turns 130 square kilometers into what honestly looks like the surface of Mars, all thanks to this deep red, salt-tolerant grass. And over in Jiajiago, the water is so pristine you can see 100 feet down into emerald and amber lakes. Down there, fallen ancient trees never rot. They're wrapped in minerals to form these crazy underwater crystal forests. And hey, speaking of crazy colors, the rainbow mountains of Zhangye Dangxia, those were definitely not painted overnight. We're looking at a 24 million year geological masterpiece. Step 1, red sandstone and distinct minerals accumulate over millions of years. Step 2, incredibly strong tectonic forces compress and fold those layers into dramatic ridges. And Step 3, this is the cool part, the colors dynamically shift. Depending on the angle of the sun or if rainfall happens to saturate the rock, these intense geological bands can change their contrast in just 10 minutes. It is essentially a living, breathing canvas.
All right, on to Section 3, Masters of Extreme Survival, Bizarre Biological Adaptations.
Okay, you have to hear about this tree. The rare Populus euphrodica desert forest is legendary for its 3,000 years of immortality. It survives the absolute worst desert conditions you can imagine by sending its roots dozens of meters deep to find salty water, and then it literally sweats the excess salt right out through its rough bark. It lives for 1,000 years. Then, once it finally dies, its sharp, twisted trunk just remains standing against violent sandstorms for another 1,000 years. And even after it falls over, the extreme dryness keeps it from decaying for a final 1,000 years. It's this haunting biological marvel that bursts into golden leaves for only 3 weeks every autumn. So, we've managed to tame parts of this frontier, right? But the wild version? Totally different beast. Consider this stark biological contrast. Nomadic families use the domestic yak to survive the minus 50-degree winters of the grasslands. They're smaller, they're relatively calm, but their cousins, the wild yaks, they rule the high plateaus. They are massive, intensely territorial, and incredibly aggressive. If you cross into their safe distance, especially during breeding season, they will violently charge at people or even vehicles. It's a perfect snapshot of humanity trying to survive right alongside untamed aggression. 38 kilograms. That is the staggering amount of bamboo a single giant panda has to consume every single day. Remember, biologically speaking, the panda is classified as a carnivore, yet it survives almost entirely on a diet of giant grass. So how on earth does a 150-kilogram bear pull that off?
Well, this brilliantly illustrates evolution's bizarre workarounds. To process 38 kilograms of food a day, the panda evolved what's known as a false thumb. Basically, it's an elongated wrist bone that acts exactly like a human thumb. This highly specialized grip, combined with an incredibly powerful bite, lets them crush and peel rock-hard bamboo stems with zero effort. It's like an anatomical glitch that perfectly adapted them to their specific environment. Just a huge reminder of how scrappy and adaptable life actually has to be to survive. But honestly, my absolute favorite survival strategy has to be this one. The Chinese giant salamander is literally the size of an adult human. It can weigh up to 50 kilograms, but it doesn't chase its prey down. Nope, it executes this slow burn underwater heist. Thanks to a highly efficient, super slow metabolism, it can hide motionless in underwater caves for years without eating. When a meal finally swims by, it opens its massive mouth so fast that it creates an instant underwater vacuum. It sucks fish and frogs directly into its stomach in a fraction of a second. No chewing, just gone. Then, we have survival driven purely by reproduction, which is beautifully showcased by the mandarin ducks. Every winter, thousands of them migrate to a geothermally warmed lake. It's basically Asia's largest wildlife hotel, and their visual strategies are complete opposites. The males are like walking neon signs, bright red, purple, and blue to attract mates. But the females, they wear these simple gray and brown colors. Why? Because while the males are busy showing off, the females absolutely need to blend into the environment to evade predators and ensure the next generation survives. Which brings us to Section 4, the violent forces of water, Earth's aquatic monsters. Let's look at the sheer unstoppable physics behind the Cantang monster wave. This is the most violent reverse tidal bore on Earth. Millions of tons of seawater are violently squeezed into a V-shaped river bottleneck. The physics here? Unstoppable. This compression creates a massive muddy wave wall as tall as a 3-story house, and it surges upriver at 40 kilometers per hour. And because of these underwater sandbars, the wave literally splits and collides with itself, creating a terrifying and super rare cross-shaped wave. It's unbelievable. And you see that same kind of violent compression in land, too, at Hoku Falls. Imagine the Yellow River, a massive 300-meter-wide body of water, just suddenly and violently forced into a tiny 20-meter gap between two cliffs. The pressure is so intense it roars like thunder. It plunges down like water from a boiling kettle and blasts columns of mist 50 meters into the sky. And when spring hits, oh man, massive ice blocks shatter and get swept right down in this fierce yellow flood. But here's the thing, water's violence isn't always about speed. Sometimes it's about extreme volatility. Poyang Lake is the ultimate shapeshifter. During the rainy season, it swells into a massive 4,000 square kilometer inland sea, deep enough to swallow massive ships whole. But in the dry season, the water vanishes completely, exposing a vast green grassland. It is so treacherous out there, it's actually known as the Bermuda Triangle of the East. And when the water recedes, you can literally see the rusted skeletons of shipwrecks sitting right in the middle of a grassy plain where endangered Siberian cranes come to graze. It just shows us how incredibly fragile and temporary our environment really is. And that leads us to our final part, Section 5, a living shifting frontier. The unpredictable forces of change. Take a look at the Laofengkou Canyon. This natural depression acts like a massive wind tunnel, unleashing level 8 winds for 150 days out of the year. It's literally known as the white snow death zone. In a single night, these violent winds can lift snow straight off the ground, reducing visibility to zero and burying entire roads under 2 meters of snow. It used to permanently trap vehicles and livestock all the time. But today, humans are fighting back. We are harnessing that exact same deadly wind to power giant turbines for electricity. Talk about turning a weakness into a strength. Now, compare Moso bamboo to your average tree. First off, Moso bamboo isn't technically a tree at all. It's officially a giant grass. And it is the only plant on Earth that grows so incredibly fast, humans can actually hear it rising. No joke. Under the right conditions, it shoots up nearly 1 full meter in a single day. For its first 5 years, you barely see it because it's secretly building this massive underground root network. Then, out of nowhere, it explodes upwards, reaching 28 meters tall in less than 2 months. We've also got these incredible changes that literally only last for hours. The phenomenon of rime ice is pure morning magic.
The Songhua River stays strangely warm in the winter, so it releases vapor into the super cold air. The exact moment that vapor hits the freezing air, it skips the water phase entirely and instantly crystallizes right onto the tree branches. It forms delicate feather-like white ice across dozens of kilometers. It forms at night, blooms in the morning, and completely shatters and melts away by noon. It's so fleeting.
And finally, let's talk about the totally bizarre chemistry of Milk Lake over in Inner Mongolia. Now, this isn't pollution. Beneath the lake bed lies ancient volcanic calcium carbonate. During the summer, when heavy rain showers hit the surface, it stirs this deep mineral layer up into the water, temporarily turning the entire lake into what looks exactly like a giant cloudy bowl of milk. It's a completely seasonal illusion. It's so famous, in fact, that locals even built a giant faucet statue next to it just to play into the curiosity of the whole thing.
From trees that flat out refuse to rot for 3,000 years to reverse tidal waves that crush everything in their path, the sheer adaptability and raw power of this region is just mind-blowing. But it leaves us with one profound question to consider as we wrap up today. In a world changing so rapidly through global warming and massive human expansion, how long will Earth's wildest, most unpredictable architectural blueprint remain untamed? Think on that for a bit. Thanks so much for joining me on this incredible journey today, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.